Sonicstate here at Superbooth 2019, and I'm joined by the illustrious, well, I would say, the Beatles of synth design, Mr. Axel Hartmann.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna justify that claim of the Beatles of synth design as well. Once we look at this unbelievable list of Axel's achievements. Now we have to go back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
To the beginning of the 1990s?
It's even earlier. It's been 89 when I left university, and I was searching for a job. And it was Wolfgang Düren from Waldorf who took me as an in-house designer, which is really nice. Wow. I was writing to Peter Vogel, you know Peter. He didn't want me. And I wrote to the Synclavier people. That would have been my shining stars. But then, well, you know, PPG was not existing that time anymore. Right. They were like bankrupt. But somebody told me that that Wolfgang is doing a new company and that I should ask them. It was Pit Löw, who is the house keyboarder from Frank Farian. Bonnie M was a big thing. So during my work at school, the diploma work that we do as a final work at school, I had him as to talk to as a professional keyboard player because my diploma was a keyboard. Sure. Yeah. So, and he gave me the tip. He said, well, talk to Wolfgang Düren. He's probably the guy you should talk to if you want a job. And he hired me right away.
And then that was the microwave.
Was the first synthesizer I had designed in that industries. It was, the PPG was always a dream machine for me. I'm a keyboard player myself, so that was my first attempt.
Amazing, and then got you the big job of the wave.
Then the wave. We thought, well, let's do two microwaves and put them into a box, and not just a box, but let's put a lot of interface on that box, because back then, you may remember, you're also kind of my age, I think, there was the M1 and all those black boxes, no interface. It was like the functions were hidden behind steel, so we wanted to do something with a nice interface, and we worked on that.
Back up.
Yeah. So we had a very nice team back then at Waldorf. Claudius Brüse was included, a very nice guy and a very talented, clever guy, musician, and he did we together did the layout of the panel, and I came to the idea I wanted to lift the panel up because I was always a big fan of Moog, Bob Moog. Yeah. So that was a reminiscence for his work back then.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, Moog will be something that we will visit in a moment. But before that, through the 90s, then, what was next? What happened next then? So after the wave.
After the wave, I stayed a few more years at Waldorf as an in-house designer, but we could already find that there's not enough work for one person just doing design in that company. So we started to do work all in that environment for Steinberg. So I did some interfaces for Steinberg, and Hohner was a company back then. They had a keyboard that they asked us to design. So that were my first attempts into the outside of Waldorf. And in '95 I left Waldorf and started working on my own with my own company, Designbox.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So we just jump forward a little bit then, and I guess, when did your involvement with Moog start then?
It was in 2000. In 2000 or 2001. It was 2001. It was at the NAMM show, and I was presenting my synthesizer, the Neuron.
Oh, of course.
There, and an older guy with gray hair. He had his booth right beside me.
Right.
And I knew this guy. It was Bob Moog. And he was on his knees beside a synthesizer, because before that he couldn't use his name. You know the story probably. He could use his name again. And he had this little Swiss Army knife, and he was like craving the wood so that the wheels work. And I was coming to him and I said, it would be an honor for me if I could make that right for you, if I could make that an industrial product rather than woodworks with some knobs on it. So, and that was my first step, and he paid me with the Voyager, and I made that right. So we redesigned the panel so that it looked right, and we were a little bit involved in the mechanics, not really a lot, but that was my first attempt, the first step into that.
Because I mean, the Voyager was an incredible return to form, really.
Yeah.
But actually, you did mention the Neuron then. Yeah. I think we need to talk about that because that's been one of the most ambitious and, maybe not the most. It's not had the easiest life, has it? The Voyager.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, the Neuron.
Yeah.
So the Neuron, no. I mean, the Neuron, was it based on neural networks? Or?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I had this idea of doing my own synthesizer. So crazy I was, and I was. I remember running around Frankfurt Musikmesse, and I was looking for some software people that could. Do the work, because I cannot do any software. I can only make things nice, but I cannot program. So, and somebody pointed me on Stefan Sprenger, and he was like the neural network guy in our industries. He ran this company ProSonic, and I asked him if he could program an engine for me that where I can use a sound and where there's an algorithm or something that can detect the quality of a sound, the nature of a sound, and I wanted that to put handles on that nature of the sound. For example, you have a piano, it has a wooden case, it has a certain material for the strings, it has a certain ambient room around it, and I wanted to make that parameters. And he said, oh, I can do that, that's no problem. My neural networks, they can recognize all that, and so we made a company together, and we developed together that instrument, and he did the software part, I did the hardware part.
Now, of course, this is when computers were still, well, not obviously not what they are now. So that was very ambitious, so very CPU intensive, I guess.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, Stefan is not known for writing code that doesn't stress. He always goes to the limit, and so that was a big problem that we had with the in that time available technology. It was always at the limit.
The idea was so ahead of its time. Yeah. But it was a really interesting interface with the kind of the panning.
Exactly.
Because that then became a little breakout. On its own, you could get the software and this little controller that could. How did that? What did that panner do exactly?
The panner, that was the core of the idea. Was we take a sample, we re-synthesize that sample, we make it a model, and this process gives us certain opposite parameters in our hands, like wooden, metal. Small, large. So when we had different layers of that kind of sound attitudes, and you could blend those with the sticks. You could even animate that. So that was the idea of the stick controllers. We had the 4 displays around it. So we load in a model. That model is, I don't know, a flute or whatever. Yeah, and then the software offers you 2 parameters. And with, with their endpoints on each of the sides, and then you could just work on that, move that,
Nice. So really groundbreaking. Again, probably too advanced for...
Too advanced, too many new things.
Right.
And what we did totally underestimate is how important it is for a sound that it is like that. Because everything we did was just destructive. Nice. And it was an ongoing process. So we wanted to develop a mechanism that, like, you find a sweet spot that works, and then we can zoom in. That would have been the next step, but the company went down before that. So we were,
But then when Elysis, of course,
that was before that.
That was before that.
That was in, I think, 1997.
And the first one was that the Ion or?
No. It's been the Andromeda.
Oh, sorry, the Andromeda, of course.
The Andromeda,
Right, and the Andromeda was the first analog poly for years, wasn't it?
Yeah. And very ambitious, actually, very ambitious, extremely ambitious. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
Even for a company like Elysis that had a lot of money in their bank through ADAT, and they had a lot of great instruments, game changer instruments, and so. But they were very ambitious to make that new polyson. The name is ASICs because ASIC is in that word, so they made their own ASICs for that. And the team is here somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We always meet
nice.
in Berlin. So Eric Norlander, Rob Rampley, Craig Devin, the team back then that made this happen, and they hired me as a designer. I was back in that time. I was trying to find work outside Germany, and I had a good friend in the U.S., Russ Jones. He was distributing PPG and Steinberg into the US, so I met him there, and he's a really, really nice guy, same age like my father, I would say, and he helped me to get in touch with those companies. So that was my first real nice and ambitious job that I got from the US.
Right. So then, moving forward, then back to sort of where we go back to. Well, was the Ion, and then were you involved in the Ion?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We found one that you weren't involved in.
Yeah.
Not many of them.
Yeah.
So the Moog thing proved to be very well, like a really significant relationship. But there was many things that you were involved with.
Yeah. Well, it was Bob Moog. He went sick. I think in 2004, and that was the starting point when we started the Little Fatty. That was already their managing director, Mike Adams. He came to me and he said, "Well, we want to do a smaller synth, a synth that can like really sell in higher quantities, and it must be." Must have a special makeup so that we can build it easily, that we can pre-produce parts somewhere else, and we just put it together in our factory.
Right. So this is actually taking a much more minimal approach then, having had these enormous festooned with controls, having to sort of pare it right down.
Yeah, but that was not the plan in first. The first renderings, if I could show them to you, I don't have them here. But the thinking was to have a prodigy, not programmable.
Oh, okay.
So, but then we found out on the way, in the development, we found out it's probably better to have a bit less direct access, but have the programs to make the sound storable. And this. It was like I was really involved into that, not only the product design, but also the way the ergonomics work, pre-selecting certain parameters and then having that one knob with a value meter with LEDs around it. So that was all like a cooperation. Yeah. And I came to that idea with the backside, which I personally think was a good idea because it was such an iconic shape, and it's easy, and I don't want to say cheap, but you can really do it. It's an aluminum extrusion part, which is the mold cost is not so high, so it's even for a company. Back then, Moog was not like that company that it is today, so they could afford buying that mold, and so it came together really well and was accepted by the people. So, and that was my real starting point into being product designer for Moog for many years.
Well, and to this day, I mean,
the one is the latest work that I did. I have nothing to do with the colorful, with a Monarch and with a grandmother, and so I like those machines, but they did that by they have a designer in-house.
That's a very different look, though. It does. I can see how the one can relate to, because like with the Sub 37 and the subsequent.
Yeah, that's all machines I've been involved, but. Eric, I think it's Eric, in-house mechanical engineer, but he's a good guy. He has good taste. So I think he started his work on the basic design of the Sub 37. They had this special model that was like the silverish model. They did by themselves, and also the newer products, the lower cost products. But the one is the one I worked on. It was a big development for Moog, and a big risk for them as well as a company. So,
but going back a bit now, the relationship with Arturia has been very fruitful, and you've been involved with lots of them. Products.
That was a funny story because I know Frederick for many years. They had their software instruments on display for a long time, and in Frankfurt a long time ago, and I was like always interested in the software they did because it was so iconic, so nice. And Frederick, he came one day. He came to me, and he said, "Okay, Axel, come. I want to show you a product." And he had that Origin synthesizer, the desktop, and he showed it to me. It was already designed. It was a designer from Paris, a young designer, and he said, "Well, we're going to release that in a month." And I listened to it and played it, and I said, I have seen some synthesizers before, and I don't think that you will release that in a month. It will be a year or so, from my experience. Yeah. And it was like that, and that built his trust into my know-how, not only design-wise. And he also came back to me to design that new, to redesign that. So that first design was like thrown in the bin, really, yeah. Oh, wow. And I made their first industrial design on the first industrial product, which still lives on in their product line. So the kind of how the knobs are built, the way the layout is done, the fonts that we use, the color scheme that we use. So that was all set in that first instrument.
Wow,
so
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they released their incredibly successful low-cost analog synths with starting with the Micro Brute. Sorry, the Mini Brute.
The Mini Brute, and then the Micro Brute.
And then the Micro Brute, yeah. And those again?
Yeah, those again, yeah.
Another hits.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's not just me, really not. We do the cosmetic design. We do also a lot of the parts that need to be manufactured. We have good thinking on everything, but a lot of the success is not just our story. So it's always a cooperation, and the concept was so good. And I must also say that Frederick says he's a good guy. He's pushing, and I always say, you burn on two ends, man. You will be killed one day because you burn yourself down. And the latest email contact that we had, he was writing me, Axel, I'm burning on 3 sides now. his company has grown and he really needs to bring the revenue, and so we're good friends. I can really say so. We had our ups and downs, and but we've done so many products together, many successful products.
Well, a new Micro Freak now involved in that?
Yeah, sure.
What a surprise. Yeah. Wow. So then after Waldorf, the company ended in the 90s, and then we were gone for a number of years.
You're right. They had put some wrong product decisions, I find, and so they went down. I don't remember well, 2001, 2002, something, and we've always been good friends. It's like my home, Waldorf, kind of, and. Joachim Flor, he bought the company assets, and we restarted the company with the Blofeld, and this is still out. You can still buy it. It's and it's still a good synthesizer. So, and we wanted to create a new logo and everything, but we didn't. We just kept things as they were, and we started with a new, very clean. Industrial design language, and I do everything for them, not only the product design. Waldorf is really my baby. Everything that you see, that you find, the logo, the advertisements, everything's my work. So I'm really connected with them, and they give me a lot of freedom in what we do. Yeah.
So I think a modern classic, I've got one, lots of my friends have got them, is the Strikefett.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's an absolute masterpiece. Now, so I was kind of thinking about the Strikefett particularly, and thinking about the workflow and the way that the knobs are laid out. So I was kind of curious to wonder about like the way that you would approach something like, use the Strikefett as an example.
Yeah.
How you would then maybe approach something like that. Would you be thinking about how, as a musician, what you want to be reaching for, what's most important?
Exactly. The Streichfett is probably the worst example because you know, Stefan Stenzel, who did the engine for the Streichfett, he's a programmer, a software guy, but he has a very strong vision of the design, how he wants an instrument to be. And we always cooperated in a good way. So he throws then his ideas to me, and I throw them back, and it's like a hand-in-hand process. So he knows already a lot of how a thing should work, and he has a very good taste. So this was a cooperation, and what I do then is like I emphasize certain functions. and maybe we together kind of come to the idea, well, why don't we do something like a morph from sound to sound? I don't even remember if it was his idea or mine, but then the graphics come to it, and so it's more like a dynamic process between the two of us. We've been quite close regarding in that process of designing that instrument. Yeah. But if I'm working on instrument where the relationship is not that close, where like people come to me and they have a certain specification of an instrument, I take the specification and I always start with a 2D picture. So it's a 2D picture. If you look on top of the synthesizer or a rec synthesizer, it's always like 2D-ish. And I start to move things around and try. That's always my thing. I try to emphasize certain things and to emphasize the importance of certain things. It's something that industrial designers do. You need some kind of hook where you start. Like writing a song. Right. It's not good if you try to write a song that has too many things in it. It's always better to have one thing that points out and that is recognizable and that you want to see again or listen again. Oh, that's nice, and then it becomes a hit. So, and I do the same thing with visuals, with the design. I try to. It's not always happening, but in some cases. It works out quite well. Well,
you mentioned earlier you're a musician. Now, I've heard rumours about a certain disco band.
Oh, yeah. Well, the disco band is not the bad thing. You didn't hear the rumours about me playing in an ABBA band for 10 years. Oh. We've been probably the most successful ABBA band across Europe.
Oh my God!
ABBA Cadabra. So yeah. And I played Waterloo, I think 2,000 times, and then I said, okay, let's stop it now. It's okay. It's okay. I'm ready with Waterloo. That was my Waterloo.
That was your Waterloo.
So we started something new. We started something. I personally, I like rock music. I like fusion rock music, West Coast Toto style. So this is, I grew up with that. But I always want to play music if I play in a band for the people. So we were thinking, what can we do to make the people happy and still don't keep on playing Waterloo? So we thought we'd do some disco stuff. So we're playing a disco band now. Yeah,
That's fantastic. Yeah. But then, it got me thinking then about how being an active musician, which lots of people who are designers or even builders don't actually ever play. Yeah. But you're a regular gigging musician.
Yeah.
So lots of that experience then is going to inform your design choices then, I guess.
Absolutely.
It's to do with like preset recalls and things which are that touring musicians find really important, but also sort of durability of the gear and like ideas that
lightweight. Doesn't go kaput, things like that. I've always been playing music all my life, and honestly, if I had the chance to choose between being a designer or a musician, I would still want to be a musician. It's like that, but I made my thing with industrial design in the music industries, which is very nice, and I'm very happy to be in that position. That people call me, like George from UDO, young people.
Yeah.
I'm an old chap. They still call me. That's nice. That's great. So George was on one of my concerts. Did he tell you?
Well, maybe that's where I heard the rumor. Well, actually, I was going to come to the UDO, the UDO Super 6, which has launched here at Superbooth this year, and had a very successful launch so far. Lots of positivity around it. Now that's quite an interesting design choice, because using styling cues coming from the Roland Jupiter kind of era and other things. Can you tell me a little bit about how you approached? Because George gave you a mock-up of.
He gave me a mock-up, and his brother is a very talented designer as well. Not product design, he's a graphic designer. And he was like coming to me through LinkedIn. Hello, I'm George. I did the design, designed the 008 for Modal. I probably want to do something on my own, and are you interested? I said, sure, it's my business. Sure, am I interested? And he sent me images of a synthesizer, and they were finished. I called him and said, don't need me, it's great. It looks a bit like Roland, but it's good. And he said, well, he doesn't want it to look like Roland. And I said, okay, then we have a job. Then we try to capture what you like, on the historical Roland products, and he's a big Roland fan. You can see that not only the layout but also the choice of parts and sliders and everything. Yeah. So we really tried to keep that, but give it an own visual, an own face from the industrial design standpoint. And on top of that, we really wanted to help him to find a good manufacturer, somebody who he can trust in, who can help him to really make this come alive. So, and that was our job.
Because it's made in the same factory as another of your hits, the Access Virus.
The Virus, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, but the Virus, I must say, it's just a part of the Virus line. It's the TI, which I've been involved with, and there will be more things coming.
Finally.
Sometime. Right. Maybe not what everybody's hoping for, but something different. Okay. And Christoph and myself, we're good friends, and we always talk. And this company is not only doing the Virus, they also build the camper,
profiling amp.
The profiling amp. And they also did the Solaris. They do the Quantum. So they're very experienced company in building synthesizers, low volume products with a high high quality approach, which is
if you play on the UDO Super 6 straight away, there's a feeling of quality. Everything feels the switches feel great, the sliders feel
that's
great.
something George really wanted in there. So he selected the parts and he said he wants these chunky parts. It should feel like an instrument from the 70s, something that's really strong and doesn't. It's really will stand the test of time. It will work in 20 years, in 30 years, the same way like it works today. He has a great attitude regarding that. Yeah. So we built everything around those parts that he selected. Yeah.
So obviously, just to mention then the Quantum. There's another design. Now that's a fantastic looking instrument. The Quantum is a very exciting looking instrument. One that you just is drool worthy, So that's been an interesting one. That feels like it's almost like the best of Waldorf in terms, But I was also wondering about, obviously, like we talked there about how there were styling cues from some of the early 80s Roland synths. Do you look outside of electronic instruments for designs, and where may you take inspiration from?
Yeah, I do. I'm a big car fan. I like cars. And if you have an open eye for what's going on in car industries, you always know what's top notch, because I think car industries, if you're a designer in car industries, you need the best skills. They're always, I find, the best industrial products to look at, to learn from, to find out trends for an industrial product. Maybe not for modular synthesizers, which run in small quantities, which are more like a piece of art. I'm doing industrial design, so I want to do something that you can industrialize, that you can build in high volumes, and that has you can really build them without quality problems. So it's a different aspects that I have to take into account when I design an instrument that needs to get industrialized. So, and I find my inspiration everywhere. But I'm a big electronics fan. I love electronics, consumer electronics, everything. I can go through Media Market and I'm happy. My wife hates me for that, but I am. Yeah. And so I get inspiration from there. I try to, I love cameras. So you can find inspiration for synthesizers or for that domain everywhere. So
just give me just a few items outside of music that you might have actually taken inspiration from.
Yeah, well, car industries, like I told you.
Anything particular?
Yeah, well.
Also, what's some of your favorite things?
I like the Audi car because they really focus on design. They reduce to the max. They have quality materials, so it's always nice to look into those cars. But it's also a big inspiration for me. It's more like a process that doesn't need any outside effect. It's when I start arranging a panel and start arranging functions, I come into the flow. You know that when we do something that you really like to do, it's always I need always to go over that hump. It's always like difficult for me. But when I'm in there, things come to me, and I have a very good memory for forms and for details. So sometimes I do something and I find there's not enough space for a certain function, and I remember that I used to have that photo machine in my hand like a month ago that had this little dial where you skip through the pictures, something like that, and then that comes back to me, and I know, well, if it's in the camera, you definitely find the part somewhere in a catalog. So, and that's always very important, because I don't design anything that is impossible to make. That's very, very important. So when we start doing an industrial design, it's always important for me with the first throw that I show my client something that can be done. That's one quality. I think that's probably one of the qualities that's very important for my company, that we get the job. You know, people know that. When they come to me, they get the job done. It's like going to Hans Zimmer. You have a week, the film must be released. Go to Hans Zimmer. He managed it. He will get it done. He nails it. Because, you know, he works very hard, he knows what he's doing, and that's the same thing, I think, for us or for my company. I'm not working alone. I have good people working together with me that help me in the process. So that's a big part of the story. Yeah.
Well, I think we should probably. I was thinking, this has been a really illuminating and fantastic amount of glorious insight. I'm ever so grateful for you taking the time to talk with us. But Axel, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome, and thank you for listening, and it's always nice to tell his own story. You know, it's nice to have the chance.
It's a fascinating story, and I'm sure there's so many other products we haven't even mentioned.
There's some.
But I mean, if people were interested, is there somewhere that they can look online to find out more about something?
Sure, you can go to our website, which is design-box.de. So you will find some of the products we designed there, and it's not the the top-notch website. We don't have the time to really keep track of that. We're a small company. We're 4, sometimes 5 people, and we concentrate on doing product design. So, but you will find some stuff there, and
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.